Okay, we are here for part two of tonight's What They Said, and we're going to talk about Stephen Rubio and myself, Phil Dellio. We're going to talk about Kelly Reichardt's Showing Up, which was one of my two favorite films last year. Having now seen it a second time, I might even edge it ahead of what was the other one we talked about that I liked so much? Blanking out on, of course, the Love Triangle. Um,
I love
Greta Lee,
Triangle.
Greta Lee, Greta Lee, help me out. You
Oh,
know,
past lives.
Past lives. Thank you. I do.
Wow.
I really like showing up. And to start, I had to look up the quote, which I am familiar with. Showing up is half the battle. Do you know who said it, or who it's attributed to? Anyway, you never know if this is actually
Right?
accurate. Stephen Hawking.
Ah,
And I've heard it, seen it applied to baseball players before. Certain baseball players
yeah.
just have a knack, even though you're well aware of their shortcomings. A good example would be a guy like Joe Carter, who, struck out too much. He swung for the fences too much. He wasn't a great fielder, but he was a great clubhouse guy, and he was always in the lineup, never missed a game. I'm sure you could name lots of giants who were like that. They were
He was
just,
a giant at the end of his career.
what's that?
He
Joe
was a
played.
giant at the end of his career. We called him, uh, well, I don't know how these are rated. We used to call him Joe fucking Carter,
He was a very
JFC.
Oh yeah, he was a very frustrating player. He was so streaky. I mean, he was one of these guys that 5 times a year you could not get him out. God himself couldn't
Well,
get
I
him
will say this for him, going back to 87, it is back when fantasy baseball, rotisserie baseball was at its very basic level. Joe Carter was my very first draft pick
and he had a great
because
year, right?
oh yeah, he hit homers. He got RBIs. He stole bases,
And
and they didn't count on base percentage.
I think he had 200 hits for the then Cleveland Indians, Guardians.
Once
Um,
the rules changed so that they counted on base percentage, he wasn't worth it anymore.
no, no, but I do think he probably RBIs were still a big. This hold on, Kelly Reichardt, we'll get to you. RBIs were still a huge thing. I think he would have made the Hall of Fame if the strike hadn't happened. I'm not saying he deserved to make the Hall of Fame, but I think he would have made it on the
Well,
base.
Andre Dawson's in there.
Yeah, he was very much an Andre Dawson.
Jim
Dawson,
Rice is in there.
yeah, yeah, similar player. So showing up is half the battle, and I think it addresses. It's a good title for this film because Michelle Williams is a what do you call it? She's a sculptor, right? She's
Yeah,
making paper. Is that officially what she'd be called, a sculptor? Um, and I don't think you're supposed to think she's a brilliant artist. She's sort of a workman. She's good. She's talented. Not like I'm an
he's
expert on her
dedicated.
field, but she's just sort of showing up. She's doing her art. She's there. She's very attentive to her art, very serious about her art, and
Hmm.
she's got a show. And she's got personal problems. Obviously, there wouldn't be a film if she didn't have some stuff going on in her life. But I think it's a good description for her as an artist. I'll start by saying it's even a more measured film than American Fiction. I think it borders on slow cinema. It's not Jan Dielman. It's not Tarkovsky. It's like an action film next to Jan Dielman, but um, it's a very slow film, no doubt about it, in a good way. That's not a put down. Um, I love the opening credits. I actually went back after watching a second time, watching it on Prime. I was able to go back. The opening credits, Andre Benjamin of Outcast, his flute music, new agey flute music is playing, and the camera just lingers and moves
Hmm.
across these sketches, which I guess are her rudimentary sketches before she does her actual work. She must begin by sketching figures, action figures. And it's just really nice, and it kind of sets the mood um, that this is going to be a film about art and about a person who makes art. Um, one more thing, and then I'll hand it over to you, Stephen, for my first chunk. I think it's very good at filling in the details very slowly. Like you're kind of I was very surprised when we find out the woman working beside her is her mom. I'll tell you that right away. Just she says
Hmm.
well, you checked in on your father. And then within
Yeah, yeah.
15 seconds, you realize that first you might think they're sisters, separated by a number of years. No, that's her mom. We don't know about the brother till well into the film. We don't know about her father until well into the film, and that she's working under the shadow of an artistic father. All that stuff is just revealed slowly and in the natural course of things, you know? Okay, I've got lots of notes, but let me hand over to you, Stephen, for some general introductory comments.
I like what you said because uh, I can't remember the first time I said this or what movie it was about, but I said that two people will describe a movie in exactly the same way. One of them liked it and one didn't, but they agree on the movie,
Yeah,
in terms of what it was.
yeah.
And I don't have any disagreement with anything that you just said. It it takes its time getting to it. It's very detailed. It seemed honest to the life of an artist, including the side job and stuff. Uh, it's beautiful looking. The cinematography. It was very much of a piece with a lot of her other films. Uh, they always have good cinematography. They always have. They're not really about narrative, and they take their time. Uh, I'd say Reichardt has a very definite style, recognizable style, and she seems to be able to make the movies she wants to make without too much interference. Which I think more power to anybody who can do that in this system. Uh, when you share it, it's a Kelly Reichardt movie, you kind of know in advance about what it's going to be, and then they're not all the same, but they have a certain style. She works well with Michelle Williams. That's clear that from the many times. And I guess I often say, the acting's good. That must matter to me. But uh,
It's
uh,
always important to me.
I called him Andre 3000. I never thought about his last name, but
Yeah, Andre
you know,
3000. That's kind of, I should
good.
have said that's who it was. I know. Nobody
Amanda
knows.
Plummer popped up, and I'm always been a
Yeah,
fan of hers. Uh, Hong Chow has never been bad. I didn't like her character, the way that when she would come over and look at Michelle Williams' art, and she would say, "Oh, that's great." I always thought she was just being condescending, but that
she's the
may have been
landlord, I take it. She's the
my yeah,
landlord.
my take. And
She's the
even
land. Stephen, she's the landlord, right?
yes, I'm sorry, yes, she's the
Okay, yeah.
landlady. And then finally, Judd Hirsch. Uh, Sometimes I think he's a bit much, but I thought he toned it down a bit here, and that was also appropriate. He still was as you say, uh, she lived under his shadow to a certain extent as an artist, and he had to emphasize that, but he didn't go too far, so he didn't bother me the way he did in I don't know
Fablemans.
Spielberg, yeah, the Spielberg week. So all of that, I'm in agreement with you. I tend to think at this point, having seen five of her movies, that if that it's me
It's
because
not for you, yeah.
because as I say, she is making the movies she wants, and I said what I said was uh, that I didn't think there's an easy solution to what I see as the problem in her movies. I don't even think a solution is necessary. I think she's making the films she wants to, and I wish I liked them more than I did, really,
Okay.
because they're valuable in so many ways, and I just don't make the connection that I want to.
Yeah, no, I totally, there are, filmmakers like that for me where I go and I say, okay, okay. And I just come away and I realize that I'm just not liking it as much as other people are. I'm not talking about something like Wes Anderson where I'm convinced that I'm right. All the people that
I
go
agree.
on, yeah, are wrong. Just where I wish I liked it more. Um, so first thing I want to ask you, like, where is this? Where does she work, and where's she doing her art? It's like a live-in school for the arts. It's what is that?
Yeah, it's kind of hard to tell, and I guess that's her outside job is she's working for that school.
Yeah.
As far as I can tell, I mean it's a little hazy on it, but
Okay.
because I think what it wants to establish is that it's an artist community. They don't necessarily all live together in a commune, and they don't. They have their lives to live, but there's a community of artists, and it's very respectful of that kind of community. The movie is.
Right. Um, and sometimes Reichardt does this. And I think I should mention, I believe the other Reichardt film we talked about was First Cow. I think it was Scott.
Yeah, I believe so.
Um, I felt like maybe we did another one, but I don't think so. I think you and I have maybe Wendy and Lucy's come up with other contexts, talking about other films. We talked about Old Joy, and you. I know how much you dislike that. Now you say you want to give another chance. I like Kelly Reichardt so much more when she's in the world now. I did not like mentioned this
Huh.
before. Wasn't crazy about First Cow. Very much dislike Meek's Cutoff. When she goes back into time, I don't know why I wish she'd just stop doing it. And I've liked all her contemporary films, including Certain Women. And she made this strange one with Jesse Eisenberg about eco activists. Um,
Hmm.
she'll leave Michelle Williams and she'll just catch other characters talking about unrelated matters. Like Andre 3000 will be standing there talking to some guy. And I like that, you know. You don't need to know what they're really talking about. You're just sort of dropping in on the conversation. Um, we don't, Michelle Williams, Lizzie, doesn't really talk about her art, but at least we see her working. We see her thinking a lot, you know? So there is that attempt. Again, I'm going to go back to Maestro and American Fiction. I
Hmm.
think there is at least an attempt to try to get under or inside the artistic process, just the mere act of watching somebody concentrating so hard on what she's doing. And you certainly feel her disappointment when the one figure of the
Yeah.
sculpture comes out of the
This,
kiln and it's been burnt.
one of the things that stuck with me. I've known more than one artist, but the one person I knew who he was an artist. That was how he lived, how he made his living. And I watched him work once. He made big pieces that are sculptures in train stations, but he also made these very delicate little things. And I'm watching him one day, and he's got a piece, I don't know, about the size of a piece of paper, but he's made his own acrylic kind of stuff. And he's got tweezers and he's got a dot. And he puts the dot where he thinks it belongs on his thing. And then he just stares at it for a while. And then he picks it up with his tweezers and he moves it what looks to me like an eighth of an inch. And he puts it down and he looks at it some more and then moves it. And I don't know why he was doing it, but I thought, I'm seeing an artist at work. And I
Yeah,
got that feel with her that Michelle Williams was channeling the artist who's teaching her how to do this for the movie. But I believed her when she worked on those pieces in that
yeah,
same way.
thought she was very credible. Now something that I could see somebody not liking, I would totally understand. And often I will complain about this too. It's okay. I was fine with it in this film. Michelle Williams, Lizzie, is so morose. I actually made note. She does not smile in the film until the 88-minute mark.
Uh,
I don't know if she ever laughs in the film.
mhm.
So serious and so sometimes she's miserable, sometimes she's just neutral. I like characters that are whole and nuanced, and that part of her was missing. I didn't mind it somehow for some reason in this
Mhm.
film, but I could see it would be normal. It would be the kind of thing I would normally complain about. Um, you do one thing I could really empathize with. I think you really feel her exasperation with her landlord, who
Yes.
is not giving her hot water and not providing hot water and really doing nothing other than just stalling. And she's trying to hold her temper, and she goes off on her on a phone message at one point, and it never is resolved. She says she's going out of town to pick up a heater, but even by the final scene, I don't think it's ever brought up again. It's just kind of as someone who's dealt with landlords before, I very much felt for it. Mention a couple of funny lines for me that were funny because certainly not a film that makes you laugh out loud, but there was a couple of things that made me laugh. Um, kind of shorthand for an artist who's broken through. The landlord, Joe, refers to some artist, oh, such and such liked your work. And turns out this artist who liked Lucy's work has just had a successful show or something. And Joe says, yeah, she's having a moment, which I guess is sort of shorthand for, how artists suddenly come into vogue. And I guess it probably happens with art. One of the things I like about art is an enigma to me. Over the years, I think I've developed certain tastes. I like, I can look at paintings. I like that. I don't like that. But I'm someone that watches the artists at work in this film, and I don't know if it's good art or not. I mean, it's just kind of an enigma to me, and how these things are decided. I've seen so many documentaries on artists and how suddenly they become a big deal, and how that comes about. I like she's having a moment, and the one line, my favorite line, was where Lizzie was so on edge about her show, and she's going on about the food and why did you put so much cheese out? Because no one's going to eat it, and then it's going to all be sitting there. And the woman who's, I think it's her gallery, she looks at it, she says, Lizzie, people are here to celebrate your work. They're going to be looking at the work. No one's going to be looking at the cheese. And she just walks on.
Of course, her brother shows up and starts eating the cheese.
Yes, she's so preoccupied with her brother. I like the brother. I don't know that actor. He was a very interesting character because he had mental health issues, and yet he wasn't cliched or anything, and he didn't have a big meltdown. You could see it like he was a little on edge when he showed up to the showing. It seemed like the potential for something, and he got very kind of aggressive about the cheese at the beginning. He reminded me of Dustin Hoffman of Midnight Cowboy because she's saying, "Don't eat so much." He says, "That's why it's out here. You're
Yeah.
supposed to eat it."
Mean here.
Yeah, if it's free, how can I be? I'm not stealing if it's free. And to go over a couple of the performances that you mentioned, I did enjoy Judd Hirsch after disliking him so much in Fablemans. I think he does a good job. He's very nice and supportive of his daughter, but his arrogance does come through, as to any celebrated artist, as you would expect of that. First of all, he thinks that younger woman is interested in him. And then his wife calls him on what she says is a fictional friendship with some other sculptor. So that comes through. Even what you said about the landlord, you felt she was condescending when she was talking about the work. Even with it being his own daughter, I felt he was being a little condescending. Oh, you
Yeah.
really, the color there is fantastic. And I don't know how genuine that felt. I liked Amanda Plummer and Matt Malloy. They were, as I often say, they were off in their own movie. They were very lounging around. Matt Malloy killed me. It's like they were just such total leeches on, and even Lizzie was telling Judd Hirsch that they're using you and they're just lying
Yeah.
around. Oh yeah, we could use some more of this. Shows up at the party and he sees the food. Oh yeah, I want some of that. They had no purpose in the film, but they were having a good time, I felt. And I was saying it's really impressive. Michelle Williams is kind of a big actress, and she obviously has some loyalty to Kelly Reichardt, going back to Wendy and Lucy. And it's actually pretty good that she would do this film, not begrudgingly, not as an act of charity or anything. I'm sure she just respects Kelly Reichardt so much. She's said, like, giving her an open ended. Put me in any film, I'm yours. And the last thing I have, we can talk to, oh, where exactly? Okay. Sorry, it doesn't, just let me skip down. I had a couple other notes, and then I'll go back to anything else you wanted to add. Oh, I like the ending. It was pat, but I like ending stuff and the metaphor of the bird flying off at the end. The kids release the bird and it starts, it's up, it's flying. It's obvious, and yet I enjoyed it. It made me
The bird
happy.
was like Chekhov's gun.
Yeah.
Or is it Chekhov, whoever it is who has the gun?
Yeah.
That's what I thought. I thought the bird's going to do something at the end of this movie.
Oh, yeah, you're right. I guess that's like coming from 10 miles away. And the shot of them walking off, kind of like a Casablanca shot at the end. It was just a nice ending.
Yeah.
Was anything resolved or, the lessons learned? I don't know. It was just good. It was in keeping with the rest of the film. So to me, this was a definite comeback. Not a comeback because, yeah, it was a comeback. I think it's Kelly for me. because I think it's Kelly Reichardt's first film since First Cow, which I really did not see the big deal about.
Mhm.
Okay, so that's I think all I wanted to say. I totally understand where you're coming from, um, and
I'm gonna
that
have to put my reading glasses on for this part because it's a quote I found
okay.
from an Internet Movie Database, and uh, I felt it spoke to this movie, and I think it speaks to her work in general, and I think it speaks to my reaction to it at least as much as it speaks to hers. So it's not a critique, but it seems true to me. So let me read this. Talking about this movie, and like I said, got it off of the Internet Movie Database. According to writer-director Kelly Reichardt, showing up deconstructs the idea of a genius. For her, it's a pure construct. The movie and its title refers to the idea of showing up to work every day and taking time to hone a skill until it becomes automatic, like eating. And I thought that's is kind of what this movie's about.
I
And
think
in a
that
certain
think that's sort of in keeping with what I was saying. I don't think you're supposed to come away from this thinking she's a brilliant artist. She's
no, and again, I feel like when I say I wish I liked these more, it's not because I think that she's doing a bad job, but I wish I connected. And this quote really hit me.
yeah,
I think what I want is a little more genius in there.
yeah.
The only
Okay.
genius in this movie is the brother who has serious emotional problems. And when he finally starts to do an artwork, he goes in his backyard and he just starts digging big giant. And he's the only person that ever gets called a genius. No one, whether he is one or not, is questionable. But he at
Well,
least gets to
don't forget who
the
calls him a genius, his mother.
the movie insists that showing up is what matters, and that genius is a construct.
Hmm.
If we're having this discussion right now, I'm not sure I would disagree.
Okay.
When I'm watching a movie, I think I want the genius in there somewhere. And Kelly Reichardt is very good, I would say, at hiding the genius. Her movies are recognizable. She has her own style, and yet somehow, I don't want to say self-effacing, but she shows up.
Hmm.
And especially in this movie, uh, as you say, it's not that these people were supposed to be great artists. And Kelly Reichardt, I don't think, is trying to beat us over the head with her brilliance. And if I want her to do that, that's not her problem. And it does mean that I like her movies. Okay. It's not like I hate them.
Yeah.
It's not like she's Terrence Malick or somebody. I get it, but I just feel like I'm the one who's missing out. And
I
I
want
think
to
that
I want to go back and read. I just glanced at it between in our 10-minute break there. Richard Brody's review in the New York. He's a weird critic. Sometimes I think he's right on the mark, and other times it's like, what are you talking about? Anyway, he says it's her first great film. That he's. It sounds like he was having some of the same issues that you were with her earlier
Mhm.
work, and he thought this was a great film. I don't know. I'm more inclined to think, well, this is of a piece with the other earlier ones.
that's me. The ones that I've liked more, I'd put this in that category. And is it better than them? No, it's better than Meek's Cutoff. It's better than Old Joy. But
Yeah.
it's about the same. In my feeling, it's about the same as Wendy and Lucy, or First Cow. Those are the ones that I liked most before, and now I'd add this one.
I got to
You know,
compare it to Bernstein though, because that's a film about someone who's supposed to be a genius, and I I came away more understanding Michelle Williams as an artist than I did him as an artist. And
good
one
point.
interesting thing that I meant to mention with Pablo Maestro was he often seemed to express doubts in that film about his artistic importance. At least two or three times in the film, he said, basically, I take other people's work and I haven't created much on my own. Now, whether he was just the other time people were saying he was so wrapped up in himself. So that was, I don't know. I never knew quite what to make of his estimation of his own artistic worth. I don't know. But I do feel that Michelle Williams was probably very, she believed in her work, but she wasn't going around spouting off theories about what her work meant. She seemed to be very modest and work. and
And
keeping.
Bradley Cooper seemed like he was going to get an Oscar nomination. He didn't have to win the Oscar. And a lot of what he did in that movie. Michelle Williams, and I think this is often true with her, you never sense that I'm going to get an Oscar for this.
It's
She
like an
just goes,
ant. Oh, it's
she
the ant.
doesn't just show up. She's really good, but she's really good within the context of whatever character she's playing. Um, and she doesn't seem to transform her. In a movie like this, you think that's probably what she looks like. But she played Marilyn Monroe,
Mm.
and she does not look like Marilyn Monroe anyway. And yet she was one of the best Marilyn Monroes that I've seen in terms of someone who's acting the part. And the scene, I think this was kind of a cliche, but I loved it when she's talking to the guy and she's gonna go see the press and she says, "You want to see me be her?" And then she goes out and turns into Marilyn Monroe.
Mm.
Hey,
Interesting. I'll have to
Michelle
watch.
Williams can do that, but she doesn't do it all the time. She never seems to be chasing that Oscar,
Yeah.
and uh, and she's always good. You
I don't
know,
think this film was nominated for like even awards you might think it would have a chance at, like writing or
no,
anything. I
no,
think Old Cow, First Cow did get some nominated or handful anyway. And that's the way it sometimes works with directors like Kelly Reichardt. They have a moment to quote the film,
yeah.
and then they're forgotten about. They go on and continue to do good work. Uh, and it's probably, I'm guessing, female directors that happens to quite a bit. Like Jane Campion she was such a big thing when the piano came out, and then she just disappeared in terms of the Academy Awards, not in terms of making films. She continued to make films, and then she came back into view with the one she made 3 or 4 years ago. Right at the beginning of the pandemic. I can't even remember what it was called.
Power
So
of the Dog.
that was it. Uh, so I get the feeling that Kelly Reichardt probably not. The Academy Awards won't be paying too much attention to her for the next while. And at some point, probably they'll decide, yeah, we're gonna nominate this film this year for whatever
She'll
reason.
be glad if they ever do that, but I don't think she makes her movies so that she can win an Oscar
Not
or an
at
Oscar nomination. She makes
not
the movies she wants to make.
Yeah. You were saying you think she gets to make the movie show. I think 100%. I can't imagine anybody like who's going to interfere and say no, that's not. I'm sure she has advisors she trusts and sounds
Mm.
things, uses them as sounding boards. But I can't ever imagine a studio because they don't finance a Kelly Reichardt film, so they can go in there and make a ton of money. That's not why they do it.
Her films aren't expensive, so they don't have to make that much
Right.
to make a little profit.
Yeah, exactly.
Prestige and all that. She's highly regarded. This movie. Let me see. I checked it. It's number 313 on the They Shoot Pictures, Don't They list of the top films of the 21st century.
Wow.
And you think,
Already.
well, 313 isn't very bad. That's pretty good.
We're well in.
Not everyone has made that movie.
Hey, we're 24 years into the century, so that's like
Yes.
fewer than 15 films a year. That's good.
That idea that they had to split off the 21st century so that Citizen Kane didn't always come in at the top. That was one of their best. Every year, that looks like a better idea that they came up with. You know.
Yeah.
Now, having said that, having just watched Goodbye Dragon Inn, which was like number 15 on the 21st century list, and I would have put it at 8 billion and 15. So I don't always agree with those ratings.
What the director that did Goodbye Dragon? What are his other two or three most famous films? Because I know I've seen work by that director.
He's Taiwanese.
Right.
So and so in my limited thing, his name is Tsai Ming Lang,
Okay.
and I don't know what else he did because
Okay.
I
Maybe I'm confusing them with a different director then. Okay. I just feel like I've seen that, but I'm not sure. I don't know. Okay. Well,
slow cinema. You talked about this movie being
oh,
slow cinema. That movie had like a 5 minute shot of an empty movie theater. There was one person in it. It was the woman who like cleans up, and she walked with a really serious limp. So she's cleaning up the crap at the end of because the theater's done, and she's got to walk upstairs and she's got to pick up, and that's the entire action of this scene. Clump, clump, and the camera doesn't move. Clump. Oh man, it's like watching seeing Tango or something. Seeing Tango's more lively than this movie. I gotta
hey,
say.
Next time we do this one, next time we do one of these, I will have my Bellatar t-shirt on. I've been waiting forever for it to show up. Do you know the one I'm talking about? It's
No.
been available for a long time. They do Bellatar's name like on the Black Flag logo, the band.
Ah, that's good.
It's a whole series. I've got the Scorsese, which is done like the Scorpions
Mhm.
logo,
Mhm.
and I will make sure to wear that the next one they.
Fresh in my mind, I think it's called The Reveal. It's one of those Substacks. And
Yeah,
Scott Tobias and somebody else
I know that
are
right.
going through the sight and sound list of
Okay.
the top 100. They started at 100 and they're going through it. And Satan Tango was the most recent one.
Oh,
And it was fascinating because they have like a kind of a conversation in print. And they both loved that movie. They both were so hated the cat, which is like made me want to just break my TV, that cat scene. But they were able to go past it to a certain extent. Anyway, I thought it's almost like I was waiting for, they're going to get to Satan Tango one of these. And they did. And I learned something just the same way, you know, talking to you and a couple other friends I have who love that movie. I've learned quite a bit. It
I
doesn't
don't
really
love the
make me want to watch it again.
I don't love the film. I found it unusually, it held my attention much more than I thought. What I love is the 12-minute scene with the accordion that dances.
Yes,
That I
yes.
love. I could watch that a million times. The rest of the film was just unusual and interesting and held my attention.
I
But
think at one point one of them made a reference that says it was Weird Al Yankovic turns up at this tavern
that's
and
right.
won't quit playing his thing.
Oh, or Frankie, whatever, Frankie Lane, the Polka King, that guy. That's
Oh
funny.
yeah,
Okay, well, that was great, Stephen. I enjoyed talking about those three films. And
enjoyed this.
we are now, as we always do, we got to mention Scott Woods. We're going to hand our recordings off to Scott, and
The
he's
master.
going to do some studio magic. No, he's just going to put on titles, and this should be up
I'm
within.
blanking out on your last music one, but I did leave a comment. So if you
Oh, okay. I
whatever
got.
you were talking about,
Thank
uh,
you.
I
Post on
really
Facebook about those. Yeah,
yeah
a lot of work. Like that was a 4-year project. It's amazing. And we got through every last song in the book, you know.
yeah
There were times we shut it down a couple of times. Actually, I got a notice today. Today's the anniversary of our first What They Said. I got a Facebook
wow.
notice because I posted about it when we did Town
Hmm.
Hall and we did 5 other films, including, I can't believe, The Sound of Metal, film I remember virtually nothing about. Um,
Well,
remember,
the town hall movie, that the
yeah,
documentary
Sounds
Cinema
Like a
Verite.
Hall. Yeah, we did
Yeah,
6 films. Today's the 2021. Today's the 3-year anniversary of that. And
yeah.
I said right in the post that Scott and I were suspending the other Zoom casts so we could do that. But yeah, we picked it up both
Well,
times we stopped and we got through it.
I have one friend in particular. We had uh, got out of touch for a few decades. We've gotten back together the last couple of years. He watches our what they said religiously.
Oh, great.
He and he whether he agrees with us or not, he thinks we are like the smartest people. We know so much about movies. Probably shouldn't put this part in the thing because he'll see
Uh,
it.
Tell him that
But
I can find a message board where I'm considered not the smartest person in the world, where my tastes and quirks generally revolt people. That's funny. Okay. Anyway, take care, Stephen, and continue good luck in your personal matters and family matters. And we'll touch base soon. Okay.
all right, thanks a lot.
Okay. Bye bye.